Hey, I'm Pascal from Orangepixel and welcome to another video. And originally this video was supposed to be about Regulated City, but last week's got away from me pretty much. So I'm doing this last minute video and I have to do all of this pretty quickly, edit it and upload it because it's almost time to have this video go live. So I'm rushing the video. Last week we had Navy days in our town or city. And sail, which pretty much means a lot of big tall ship, boats, sailing yachts, whatever, came into town, into the harbor. The Navy had their Navy Aerials, Navy Space area open to the public. I think about 200,000 people visited the city over 3 days, and it's all like a 5-minute walk from my front door. So it's been hectic and chaotic. We had my dad over here, so we got just a little bit of a distraction for him after everything that happened earlier this year, of course. So we just visited a lot of boats. We went all 3 days, so we walked like a lot of miles. And I mean, he's 76. I think he's resting the rest of this week because we made him walk a lot of miles. Even we are feeling it. Aline and I are tired as tired can be, but we had a lot of fun. Sailed, got on a boat. I'll be showing some pictures while I'm talking, I guess, and just saw a lot of ships. We entered a couple of ships. We enjoyed it. I just didn't get a lot of work done. So this video is a Q&A. After the intro, I'll go downstairs and sit on the couch because that's the best place to do Q&A. Be right back. Alright, so quick and dirty Q&A. I have some questions left from Ian Key. Pretty sure you're a regular, so you're probably still watching. These questions were dropped some time ago. Every now and then every question people ask me below, if they're good enough, I'll put them on a list, and eventually when I get around to it or have no real topic or time to do a proper video, I do these Q&A videos. Alright, this ties into me releasing Residual, so that's actually 2 years ago. I guess this question came up. It was published by Apogee, and the question pretty much says, how does it compare to do self-publishing or being published by a publisher? First of all, I talked about this in many videos. There are different types of publishers, and this was a proper publisher, so that means they fund stuff, they have finances, they have resources, they put in a bunch of things into the marketing, into providing voice acting we had different musicians coming in to do a lot of extra stuff, and all that stuff came from the publisher. That's a good publisher. And there's also a lot of publishers who will come in and just distribute, and then they take an X amount of percentage of the revenue, but they don't really put money into you as you're making the game. They don't really put much money into marketing. They might say they do marketing and there's money going into that, but it usually just means sending out a press release. That's a bad publisher. I did a topic or video on all of that, and it's very hard to find the right ones, but there's a difference there. How did I find it? Comparing my own released games. Usually I release my games on my own compared to having Apogee do it. First, let's just talk through the good stuff. Obviously, money, resources. They had money and resources available. We had great testers. They hired a company that pretty much play tested the game like 3 days non-stop in a row. I would wake up in my morning, then have a list of things they found with complete description, how they found it, where they found it, a video showing me all the stuff they did. It was very thorough testing. I can't do that on my own. I don't have the resources to pay for that. I'm not sure how much it costs. Obviously, I don't need to know those things. That's also the beauty of a publisher. They'll handle it and they'll sort it out, and you don't really have to know all the details. That's kind of nice. So we had great testing. We had voice acting coming in. My idea originally was that little robot in the game. What about giving it a voice? So I kind of asked any of them, any of the guys at the publishing company, would you be willing to talk or say these lines or speak these lines, or know somebody who can, because well, I can do it, but my accent is Dutch probably still, so we might want a real American accent or an English accent do it. And they came up with voice actors, like professional voice actors. Why not hire them and let them do it? Which, I mean, way beyond my original idea and budget, but not beyond there, so we went with it. We had music in the game, but the music in the game is a little bit of a... It's not really music, it's more... It's hard to describe, but there was music in the game, but they wanted a theme song. So they had a lot of contacts with musicians and things like that. So a guitar player came in and an arranger and all that stuff was created, and it now has a beautiful theme song and score and extras in the game with little jingles and things that normally I could do them, but again, that's beyond my budget. I can hire musicians to do stuff, but I usually have to limit that to like 1 or 2 minutes of music, maybe 3 or 4 music pieces to at max, and that already cost me like $800 to $1,000. And a lot of players will simply turn off the music. So somewhere I have to just cut budgets, and music is one of those. Now I had all the resources to add more music than I needed, pretty much. Same with marketing. They had a PR company, hiring a PR company and doing a bunch of stuff. And so that's pretty much the most positive thing about having a publisher. There's more funding, there's more resources available. They do stuff at a bigger level, pretty much because they are the bigger level, as they are managing multiple game developers, and hopefully all those game developers combined make more money than they put into all those game developers combined. So they can still take a loss on 1 or 2 of them. If the other 3 developers are doing hit games, then there are just simply more resources available. And I wish I had that all the time on all my games, but sadly I don't. Now let's talk about the negative, although it's not really negative. Okay, so negative, but not really negative, is one of the things I experienced is that I don't have all the control, and I don't have all the control. I guess that's pretty much it. I still got to say everything about the game was my own. I decided what went into the game. They came up with ideas. I was free to say no. So contrary to a lot of myth and things like that about game developers and publishers, as a game developer, you still get to control everything about your game. That's really how it goes. That's fine. And publishers want you, not just your game, but you as a developer. The game is still my game, but everything around it, I had to wait for certain things. Certain things were done different than I would. Like the voice acting was all great and stuff like that, but the money and the funds and the resources that went into that might have been better spent, in my opinion. So things like that. On one hand, it's great that there are all these resources, but I didn't feel like they were flowing in the right direction. I think some extra marketing would have been much better, but I guess that's how I would do it if I had that type of money. So yeah, it's not a negative thing because it's more my experience with it. I like to do a lot of these things myself. I have been doing all these things myself, uploading to all these storefronts. So I know how to handle those things and I don't mind doing them. But every now and then, yeah. So yeah, that's not a negative thing about not having a publisher. I think that's just probably the positive thing about not having a publisher and doing it all on your own. You get to control everything. So you get to do it in your own way. Of course, the resource, if somebody just came with a bag of money, gave that bag of money to me and said, go crazy on it, I would be very responsible in how to manage that money and do it in the right way. But sadly, that's not really an option these days. Although my current game, Regulated City, is funded by Mid-Game Fund and is very close to them just handing me a bag of money and telling me, do what you want, do what you think is best, just make sure we earn that money back. That's pretty much how an investment works. And it's kind of nice freedom to have. But I also know it's going to be very hard to replicate that for my next game. So unless this game, of course, does extremely well, then it will be very easy to knock on their doors and just try it again. And that's the main reason for me to make sure Regulated City does as well or as good as it possibly can, because in that way I can probably knock on the door again for my next game. I hope, at least. So that's really the difference between self-publishing and having a publisher. There is a certain amount of control that you hand out to somebody else. Another thing, I run discounts on all my games and sales and things like that. and usually I do that combined with all my other games as they are one universe of Orangepixel games. But now I had Residual on the far end of this universe, pretty much part of the publisher, Apogee in this case, and it was really on their call when it was on discount or sale, and it didn't really connect to the rest of my games. So in a sense, it kind of felt like Residual, it was my game, but I gave it away and somebody else was running it now, and that's a little bit weird, but I guess it can also work for you as a developer. Then at some point you just have this game done, made, built, give it away and see what the publisher does with it, and you just grab your money or collect your money, your revenue split, and work on the next game. And it's all possible, but for me it didn't feel right. I like to keep my games alive for as long as possible. Like some of my games are now 11 or 12 years and they're still being updated just to make sure they stay on the stores, and if I can put them on different new hardware like the Atari VCS, the iArcade or whatever, I still release them on those things. And when you have a publisher, they somewhat control what happens with the game and where it goes and where it lives and how it lives and all those type of things. That's the real main difference I think I found, and it doesn't have to be a bad thing, it doesn't have to be a positive thing. It's really what you make of it as a game developer. It's just something you have to think about before you say yes to a publisher. And before you say yes to any publisher, make sure it's a great publisher. Not, like I said at the beginning, they have to invest in you, not your game, take it and run with it. Invest in you as the developer and make sure that you as a developer get to put everything into that game and make it as good as possible. And then you know you have a great publisher. If you don't find that, you have a bad publisher and you should avoid working with them. Just a warning from my end. Alright, and a follow-up question from Youdev Mahmood, also from the YouTube community. How to get publishers and how to make your game appealing to them. This has been an interesting thing I've seen happening on various Discords and from various developers. First of all, I think I'm repeating this, but make sure you're trying to get in contact with the right publisher. I'm not going to repeat what I just said, but that's the key thing. Not every publisher is a publisher. So make sure you understand the differences and you know who is who. If they just have a huge amount of games in their catalog, that's probably not the right publisher, because good publishers are very, very picky for the simple reason that they get so many games or so many game developers offering them games, they can cherry pick the best of the best. And that's really the thing that a lot of game developers don't seem to understand. If you have nothing to show to them, if you don't have a right demo, or if you don't have any background in games, don't have any other games you made to show to them, they're probably not going to work with you unless you really have something there already. So a very simple way to find out if a publisher is going to be interested in you, show your game demo to a bunch of people. If it takes off in social media, if everybody's sharing it and talking about it and hyping it up, publishers will be circling your, well, everything, your everything. They will be everywhere. They will be mailing and contacting you because they have a bunch of people in every social media community, forum, Discord, and whatever, and they are just always monitoring whatever is happening. So a lot of people still think that on Twitter, well, Twitter might not be the right thing to talk about today as they've been messing up, but there have been hashtags on Twitter like Screenshot Saturday, Indie Gamedev, Indie whatever. A lot of people say, well, it's useless because everybody's using them and nobody's watching. People are watching. Some streamers are watching and they are also working for publishers. They are scouts, pretty much scouting good games. And publishers will be looking at certain streamers to see what kind of game they are playing. And if it looks good and there's no publisher there yet, they will hunt that developer down. So getting a good publisher is really getting your game out there, getting it noticed by as many people as possible. At that point, publishers will contact or find you. And of course, if they don't, you can still mail them. You can show them some streamers playing your game. You can give them a demo so that they can actually play the game themselves, and you can just hope for the best. Problem with a lot of publishers is, first of all, like I said, they can cherry pick the best of the best. So if there are 50 games, they'll grab one or two of the best games that are already building up a community on their own, and they can only improve on that from that point on, which also means they don't grab a lot of games every year. A lot of the big or good publishers are not big, they are good, they have small teams, they do maybe 4 or 5 games a year. So they have an agenda already, a schedule for the whole year. They're already marketing these games. They don't have a lot of room unless your game is extremely interesting, or if your game is still 2 or 3 years away from releasing. It might be interesting to them as well, but they have just a very tight schedule and very little time. That's why it's so very hard to get a publisher. And of course, it's somewhat unfair because a publisher simply gets to cherry pick the games that are probably already gonna be doing well on their own. If your game is being talked about by everybody and you get a lot of followers, you get a lot of demo, you get a lot of people playing your demo, you got Twitch people streaming them, YouTubers streaming them and showing your game, you don't really need a publisher. You already will be doing just fine on your own as long as you can do all the work on your own, which means putting it on the App Store, on the Google Play Store, on the Steam pages, on Nintendo Store, Switch, on the Switch Store page, app, shop, eShop. You can already get your games on there on your own. You don't need a publisher for that. It makes it easier to have a publisher, or it makes it easier if you have a catalog of your own games already. So to sum this all up into like a short sentence and answer, I should have done that before. Just build the best game you can, and it should be extremely the best of the best. I've seen too many developers who are just hoping to get a big publisher contract, but it's not gonna happen if nobody is talking about your game. You've been working on it for like 1 or 2 years now. I'm not talking about anybody specific before I get reactions like that again. Just, I've seen so many developers who have already been working on a game for like 1 or 2 years or longer, and now they're gonna try to get a publisher because they have so much to show and they still want so much to build, and then they want to hire people, and it's not gonna happen because in those 2-3 years you've been working on it, nobody really cared about your game. And the publisher will also not care about it. It's missing something. Find other ways to invest in your game. A Kickstarter might still work if you can actually find the right people. And yes, it requires a lot of marketing to get that Kickstarter up and running and get people to notice that Kickstarter. But that's gonna be less time and less investment than working on your game for another 1 or 2 years and hope that people notice it by then. So that's one way. There are investment companies. It's gonna be hard to get them as well, but they are there. So try other ways to fund your game. That's a bonus tip for this one, I guess. And that leaves me with one more question for this video from Mike Williams. At what point do you create a demo for your game? You never want to release an overly broken game that might lead to bad taste with potential players. So what brokenness is okay to release in a demo? Honestly, I think as soon as you think you have a game that's fun to play and people should play it and you can only improve on it from that point on, I think it's okay to then release the game already, or the demo as a demo. Just make sure people understand it's a demo very early in development. Don't have to widespread it. You just release it to a small group or community, like your own Discord or your own followers, and it will grow from there, and then you can get feedback, improve it, try it again, show the demo to a couple of extra people here and there, maybe a Discord, maybe a Reddit post or whatever, and keep growing it. That's what I've been doing with Regulator City. I'm doing it now with Heroes of Loot 3. I'm just very early on show a demo, and I don't think you'll lose players. I do think that you can gain a publisher, maybe. By having the demo out there, having your game out there playable and people talking about it, maybe build up a little community around it. That's pretty much the best way to get free marketing. It's the easiest way to get marketing for your game and get players for your game and try to build a community around your game. So I think you should just release your demo as early as possible. All right, 3 questions, 3 answers. I think we're done here. And that's it for this week's video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave some comments below. If you have questions for a next Q&A video, please drop them below because I'm running out of questions for these type of videos. So next week, probably Regulator City, I hope. I've been doing a bunch of things. I have the boss battle built into the game now. I have improved some stuff, so I think I'll be updating the demo pretty soon with all these things. And I think we'll talk about that next week, and then I hopefully also have the demo live if I get to work this week, because last week was a lot of fun. Just a lot of fun in the sun, but not a lot of work got done. I should write songs, or probably not. All right, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below. Bye bye.